Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and berries, it's me, Bradley G, here at the World Nerve Center headquarters of Your Authentic Reflections. And this is Casey Peak, and today we're going to talk about...
What's up?
We don't know what we're going to talk about. We thought about talking about magic and mysticism. That's what the title says.
I love that subject.
We're going to go off, of course, because that's what we do.
Because that's what we do here. Where titles are only suggestions.
It's just SEO.
You know, real suggestion for us, though, going forward, because I go back and I do look at the clips sometimes of the old clips of stuff that we do.
Shorts?
Yes. One of the problems I see with the shorts is that whenever it auto edits us, sometimes it auto edits out the subject matter. So you're left with me pontificating about something where it has no intro and no exit. So you don't end up with any context whatsoever. And that is just funny. So I was talking about how in the last one I was going, so we have it way worse here in America by like a factor of like 16. And then it's like goes on about that for a little while and it talks about it. And then you get to the end of it and you're like, what? What do we have worse here in America? Everything's great here in America. What do we have worse? I don't know. It's not wages. We have good wages. And you're wondering, what the hell is it? Of course, we were talking about the amount of chemicals that we're exposed to on a regular basis.
Well, that's just the essence of editing and shorts and all that stuff. It's out of context.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just the way that it is. And then with the AI doing it, you never know what the hell it's going to do. And you don't know if the AI has been programmed to lean one way or the other.
Right.
That's a little bit of magic because it could possibly be deception, malicious deception.
Yeah.
It's possible that software was created by an arch enemy and everybody's using it.
You never know. You never know. It's pretty funny.
You never know who's going to get voted into office or what kind of laws will pass or what kind of regulations will be shot out. That's why.
Sure we do. We're in America. It's going to be all in favor of the people up here, and it's going to screw over the little guy. It's pretty much consistent.
Who are the people up here? You mean the elites?
The elites that are constantly running everything. They're gonna make all kinds of laws in favor of them. Screw over the little guys, right? I mean, we've kind of come to expect that at this point. I think there's a change in the wind. I honestly do, but that is what we've come to expect.
Yes, and some will deny it. You said change in the wind?
I seriously think there is.
The wind's got to do with climate, so the climate deniers would say that you're not right with the change in the wind.
That's funny. Well, no, seriously, with the change in the wind, like I've been going through a lot of the political stuff because I'm just trying to catch like an idea as to kind of the way the wind is blowing in regards to the election cycle and see where people are at and what people are believing. And it's really funny because as much as you hear about the DNC and how much everybody loves Kamala and all this bunch of stuff, a lot of the videos, including like from people who are like who are Indian, right? So this is talking about specifically, it was an Indian person who was doing this, said, "Hey guys, you know what?" And he's saying it with a really thick Indian accent, which I do a very poor Indian accent, so I'm not even going to try it right this minute. But he's going through it and he's saying it, and he says, "The only thing that is very Indian about you, Kamala Harris, is that you scammed 250 million Americans into you getting the Democratic nomination with that one vote." He goes, "I don't know if any other Indians, whether they're working in scam phone lines, call centers, or if they're working if they're doing scam emails. I don't know of any other Indians that have been able to scam that many people. So kudos to you." And that was what he said. I was like, wow. So people are really calling a lot of the stuff out there like it is, which of course we're already off topic.
Or like it isn't.
It's very interesting.
we're way off topic of the magic of the mysticism, but this is an interesting thing.
Well, it is magic because we were talking about edits and the way that you edit clips and the way that things present themselves, right?
Yes, and speaking of this kind of thing, I believe there has been a change in the wind. I mean, ever since Trump got his ear shot off, he's been a little different. Seems a little more. He's not so aggressive anymore.
Right, he's taking it much more.
But it's what we are seeing through the lens of the media. Because I've never met the guy. I've never sat down and had coffee with him.
Right.
I don't know what he's really saying, but it seems like they could maybe slow down the voice so he sounds like he's more. So when you say media, you got the mainstream media, which is the CNNs and the CBSs and the blah, blah, blah. And then there's all the people that are doing their TikToks and their live streams.
Right.
And then there's the people from outside of the country doing their videos and things. And then there's the people that are running the show and can say, we don't want that video to be showing up. And nobody's going to see it. And they can tweak all that stuff. So, yeah, there's been a change in the wind, but I don't think it's been the wind that changed. I think it was just the way that they decided to. I think there's some people that are up. What's going on?
Just looking. Happy Aloha Monday.
That is
mainstream. Yeah, Cindy Lee.
Hi, Cindy Lee. Thanks for watching.
Hi.
She's a travel agent, and they're talking about networking. She's connected like crazy.
Yeah.
She goes and interviews people at the different places she vacations at, and she's involved with the Air Force show that's over in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. So she flies up for that, and with the Top Gun type people and stuff. So she's connected.
Sweet.
So
go Dodgers. Yeah, as a kid, I was a huge fan of the Dodgers, and the Angels. Of course, I lived in Los Angeles, so how could you not be a fan of your local team? And I loved baseball. I went to baseball a lot. I used to go to baseball a ton, and I would go with my dad all the time. And we would talk about all the current like games that were going on, all of the people at the time. Of course, this is back whenever it was Reggie Jackson and gosh, who else was on the team at that time? There was what's his name? He was really known for how well he would hit. Chili Davis. There was quite a few other people that were there. But yeah, so it was fun growing up in that. My uncle actually lived next to one of the Angels, so I actually got to go over and get their signature over.
My brother made a bumper sticker way back that says "Go Twins" and take the Vikings with you.
That's funny. We'll be at the game on the 9th. The Dodgers game on the 9th, huh? Nice, cool. Yeah.
I can't really participate in this. I have no idea what a Dodger is. Someone that gets out of the way of dodgeball. That'd be a Dodger.
Oh, come on. You know who the Dodgers are. The Los Angeles. Well,
I know.
This is from back in the day
whenever
it was not Los Angeles.
This
is the Brooklyn Dodgers.
That's why
this is before it went to LA.
I don't do sports.
This is old school.
It is.
Yeah.
I remember I was dating this girl back when the Twins won the World Series, and she didn't talk about the Twins at all. And then when they got in the World Series, all of a sudden she's a big fan. She's got her own rank.
Yeah. Well, I mean, going back to media, that is the magic of the media, right? As soon as you have a team that is doing better and they're getting more coverage and people are going, oh, this may be their year. And you see a bunch of other people cheering about it, it makes you feel like, oh, well, I should probably cheer for them too.
Well, that is the magic
part of it. Yeah.
Going back into the magic of the media thing and how they manipulate stuff, and people sort of subliminally don't even understand it. Like the other day, we were driving, me and the wife driving the car, and we were talking about movies, and she said, there seems to be a lot of horror movies coming out. Why is that? Halloween's coming.
Oh, Halloween's coming. Yeah, of course.
So and you'll notice when you listen to the radio, all of a sudden there's a lot of Tom Petty music on. Why? Because he's coming to concert.
Didn't Tom Petty pass away?
Well, I just use that as an example.
Okay. I was gonna say I'm not sure that's a good example.
He takes stuff so literal. He's so
Yeah.
literal about this. I should have said something like Elvis, and it would have been obvious or something.
Oh, that would have been very obvious.
Obvious. Play a lot of Elvis music. That means Elvis coming back. But that's
He's
the way.
always coming back, though. I mean, people see him everywhere.
That's the way the media does that stuff.
Yeah.
You can start when people are watching stuff. It used to be the regular TV channels that they do. Then there's the cable stuff, and now there's the internet. But who runs the internet? A lot of people watch this stuff like this is being broadcast on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So who's controlling YouTube? That's a Google thing. So they can adjust the little dials. Like taking that case in point, wasn't there something in the news about Zuckerberg sort of apologizing to stuff that happened?
That was huge. Zuckerberg came out and he flat out talked about the fact that under the Biden administration, they were actually requesting that he that basically he control what is showing up on Facebook as far as like, you know, in the media, but on Facebook media. And he was, he was putting a lot of things under wraps. And Zuckerberg was like, yeah, so I highly regret that I ever did that. I don't think I should have ever done that. And in the future, I would say no, and I would try to prevent from doing that.
I'd like to interject on that in that in defense of the Biden administration, was it Biden that actually might have talked to Zuckerberg? Or was it maybe the FBI, the CIA, or some other organization that had coffee at Starbucks and says, hey, tell Mark when you get back, you kind of want to, you know, shift gears a little bit, you know what I'm saying?
So he actually states exactly what happened in that kind of press release that he did. He mentions that it was the Biden administration. That is the only reason why I stated that. Their censoring of the American public and of people on Facebook was going on well before Biden was in there. You have to go all the way back to the origination of the Patriot Act laws, and whenever the Patriot Act laws were kind of at their height in like 2008 to really go back to the beginning of.
Let's take some of this into the magic element. See, and I understand the magic. It's not so much mysticism, but to some people it might be mysticism.
Yeah.
But there's ways.
It's like sleight of hand magic.
Sleight of tongue.
Sleight of tongue. There you go.
So there actually are techniques that's used in the magic world to deceive someone, to make them think that you did something a certain way. So here's how that could have happened with the Zuckerberg thing. Maybe none of them even knew anything about it, but some guy did see somebody at some restaurant and he says, hey, Casey, how's the family?
Great.
You want to keep it that way, don't you? I think you want to have a real nice, friendly family.
Oh, yeah.
Alive and healthy.
Oh, yeah. I see what you're talking about. Yeah.
I think it's important to have a nice family. I got a little Italian kind of mafia accent. Not a very good accent. But that's how that stuff can go. And it's sort of you're listening to what I'm saying, but your mind's going, what the hell is he talking about? My family's health?
Yeah.
And then you get back to the office and you go, excuse me, Mr. Zuckerberg, I think we should, get rid of some of that stuff that's been going on there. We should make a little adjustment in the algorithms because I think we could probably make more ad sales. What do you think? And Mark would go, oh, that sounds like a great idea. And he has his meeting. He says, we're going to change the algorithms to shift this because we make more money. You guys get a raise next month. That's how it could have been done.
It's entirely possible. I mean, there's so many different ways that they manipulate what is shown in the media anymore that it's just kind of insane. I mean, it really all does really go back to the Patriot Act laws. The Patriot Act laws are very damaging to the American people, and it would be really nice if people would start talking about them again and they would repeal them. Because if we were to repeal the Patriot Act laws, essentially it would be hands off the media again. The Patriot Act laws are the only thing that actually authorizes the United States government to interact with the media and actually tell the media what they're allowed to print. It's the only thing, because it's anti-constitutional. So the Patriot Act laws, whenever they came in, it was because there was this domestic terrorism, and then there was the terrorism from 9/11 and all that kind of stuff, and we were going to war overseas, and then we had to keep things under wraps because there was too much that we knew by the American public about what was going on in our campaigns overseas, and we could actually show that, oh, we're building up forces in Afghanistan, or we're building up forces in Iraq, or wherever. And they would name specific areas where we were building forces. We're sending new equipment over there, things like that. And then, of course, if they watch our media, they're like, oh, okay, they're going to do a buildup, and they're, let's look at where the strike radius is. And they could kind of figure out what was going to go on, right? You can kind of extrapolate a little bit of the game plan. So they were trying to say that this is the reason why we need to restrict the media. But the truth be told, and I'm sure we all know this, like anyone who's on there would know this, that's not what it was really about. It wasn't what it was about at all. Well, it was about controlling the media.
You don't even know what it's about.
Well, it was about controlling the media. I mean, one of the major things that happened, like let's go to like the 9/11 event. One of the major things, like I was watching at the time this happened, and there is actually clips finally that people have went back and found where people made recordings of the TV that they were watching at the time to prove this. Basically, one of the things that happened is they had that plane that hit the Pentagon. When I was watching it live as it was unfolding before they changed it all, there was a Japanese tourist who was touring at the time around the area, and they ended up having a recording with a camera where they were watching the Pentagon, and then all of a sudden they go, oh, what's that? And they lift up and they watch it, and you see an object go, and then just go down. And they stop and they frame it, and it was moving extremely fast, so it was blurry. But as it was framing, the object was way too small to be a plane, and it looked like a Tomahawk missile because it had fins in the front and fins in the back, which looked very much like a Tomahawk missile. And of course, the explosion happened right then. And this was being filmed, and then it was shown on the news station. I wish I could remember what news station it was, but it was shown on the news station. Then, of course, immediately after that, the whole story got changed, and then somehow the news anchor got shifted on the live news broadcast of what was going on. All of a sudden, the news anchor got shifted. The people who reported it got shifted. The story was pulled. It was retracted. The video was removed. Nobody's ever seen that video ever again. And then now all of a sudden it was a plane that struck. This was a live recording that the guy made, and then immediately walked over to a news van and went, I have live footage of what happened. Here, you need this. And gave it to the media. And then the media reported on it, and then suddenly it all disappears and nobody ever hears about it again. Like, I mean, that's a big deal. That's showing how the magic is created of a certain event that we all have, and anyone of us who's old enough to have been alive during 9/11, where we have a memory of something that happens, and then they try to shift that memory on people. And it happens all the time, and this has been happening ever since. And basically the Patriot Act laws, they were going after the government at the time for trying to tell the media what they were allowed to report on, and then they pushed through the Patriot Act laws, and suddenly all of those lawsuits and everything went to the wayside. The reason why they went to the wayside is because the Patriot Act laws gave them emergency rights to being able to do it. They basically put us into for lack of a better term, into a martial law scenario with the media. pretty ridiculous. But anyway, so that's the history of that. That's the history of why that ended up happening and why the media has as much control right now. And for those of us who were fortunate and unfortunate enough to have been watching the events unfold in front of us, it means a lot. Like I was set to take a plane the very next day. I was actually going to come here to Minnesota, actually to Crystal, for the very first time, the very next day, less than 24 hours after that happened. And whenever it happened, I had no idea what was going to happen. So as soon as I heard even an inkling, and I happened to be online at the time, I was playing an MMO. I was on and I was playing this game. It's more like keyboard and mouse. And I was playing this game, and somebody said, "Oh my God, are you watching the news?" And I went, "No, why?" And they were like, "Turn it on." And I turned it on, and it was all live. It was like literally moments after it happened. So I watched everything unfold, and then years later, when you go back and you watch the footage, none of that original firsthand footage, unless it supports their story, exists anymore. None of it's there anymore. What they talked about in the media, that's all shifted. It's all changed. It's different. It's the same thing as whenever, like, there's another thing that I know that's happened. Like, so there's this guy in Canada, in the Quebec region, and he was the dentist at the time for, I believe it was the Canadian hockey team out of that area.
That's a good game.
Forgive me if I can't remember the name of the team, just simply because I'm not a huge Canadian hockey fan. So, but it's out of Montreal. Was it Montreal? Yeah, it was. No, it was Quebec. It was Quebec. Sorry, not Montreal. It was Quebec. And he came up with a method to put a thing in your mouth that basically emitted a small frequency that would cause the butt of the tooth to begin to regrow. So he could actually regrow teeth in adults. So we would all be able to just regrow teeth now. And a week later, I couldn't find the article anymore. The article was gone. The internet was scrubbed. I couldn't find anything about it, literally nothing about it. I would Google it. I'd start searching through all these old sites. The links would be gone. The news articles were gone directly from the news websites. Everything. I was like, this isn't here anymore. Like, what happened? Did I imagine that? No, I didn't imagine that. And then, right, it's kind of weird how they would be able to do that and that quickly. But then it was a month ago, I was watching one of my favorite guys who I've mentioned multiple times on our show, Museum of Tarot. Museum of Tarot goes, "Oh, so you're wondering how this happens?" And he pointed like this, and of course the green screen goes and starts playing. That clip, the exact same clip that I watched, and he talks about the article about the regrowing of the teeth, and he showed it, and I was like, "That's the one! That's the one!" Elizabeth goes, "Oh, I believed you that you saw it whenever you were telling me about it, but that's the first I've ever seen of it."
So that one slipped through the cracks because it was a recording of a recording?
It was a personal recording of a recording that he ran into, and he was like, "That's
so somehow they weren't able to pick that up. But now with recognition, facial recognition, and all that, they probably able to pick something like that. But
I have no idea how they'd be able to do it. It's probably taken down by this point. I mean, he aired it. It's probably gone by this
point. That's what I'm saying. So there's newer technology now. But it's interesting how they'd be able to grab all that stuff. But I guess the internet was kind of developed for military purposes. So you think that the CIA or whatever would be able to.
I mean, yes and no. It was developed for military purposes, kind of, but really the major developments of it was actually so universities could talk whenever they were talking about certain projects. Some of them were military based, some of them were not. But it was, Yeah, that was originally where that all came
You
from.
have to
And they
ask Al
started
Gore.
like evil Al Gore.
I thought he started the internet.
That's funny.
Did you hear that?
I have heard people make that comment before, and it's really funny whenever people make that comment.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm funny.
I tell you what he did start. He started the whole entire global warming thing. That he did start.
That's inconvenient truth.
Yeah, he did.
Then you wonder
With
why.
an algorithm in a computer that showed a model of the world that was off by a decimal point.
So you wonder why.
A full decimal point. I mean, that is huge in the science world. If you're off by a decimal point, of course, all of your calculations are going to be off.
Well, your average person looks at it as it's just a small thing. And they see a big tsunami and they go, oh my God, it's happening.
Right. Well, I mean, you can, if you're an alarmist and you're thinking, like, okay, let's say this. Let's just go with this though it's fact, right? I mean, everybody knows who watches me on a regular basis knows that I don't actually believe this. Let's say that I am a Seventh-day Adventist who believes in end of the world scenarios and everything is going to hell in a handbasket because the evidence is around me everywhere. You know, I mean, look, there's wars, there's famine, there's disease rampant throughout the world. It's the end of the world. It's the end of the world. By the way, every 10 years, it's the end of the world. It's literally, if you look throughout history, and this was actually a hobby of mine whenever I was a kid, it was not even kidding, weird child I was. I used to love going through history and finding every single time they called the end of the world. I read all about Nostradamus. I read all about how whenever it went from being the turn of the century, the first century, they were like, oh, it's going to be the end of the world. How in 1000 AD, they were like, oh, it's going to be the end of the world. And all the events surrounding that. And, you know, in 1000 AD, it was funny because they have like lots of reports of thousands and thousands of people, which is a bigger deal back then, all going into these churches and crying and praying for God to take them so they didn't have to live upon the earth after 1000 AD because they were convinced that 1000 AD, as soon as the clock struck 1000 AD, that literally the world was going to end like overnight. And it's been repeated since then. We've had like every few years. There's like, oh hey, there's Halley's Comet. That means the end of the world, right?
It's all a cycle. You inhale, you exhale, you inhale, you exhale, you inhale, you exhale.
Yeah.
The sun comes up, sun goes down, sun goes up. It's all that way. The tide goes in, the tide goes out.
And it's usually every couple hundred years, but now it's happening like every like few years. People are going, oh, the end of the world. I think people are tired of the world the way that it is, so they want it to be the end of the world instead of going, hey, I'm going to take it upon myself in order to make change.
Like, on that topic of making change, I think it's kind of arrogant for a human to think that the human can change the world.
I can change the world by my perception of the world.
Sure.
Exactly.
But if anybody thinks they're going to alter Mother Nature, good luck.
Right, but usually whenever people are tired of the world, they're not really thinking of Mother Nature. They're usually thinking, if I'm going to change the world. I mean, obviously, if you believe in the whole global warming thing and you want to change the global warming thing, well, then you're falling in that category, I suppose. You're trying to change one.
Well, the end of the world thing you're talking about.
But yeah.
Is there a comet that's going to come? I don't know.
All I know is that I live every single day as though it's my last, and I try to love my children. I try to hug them. I try to play with them. I try to kiss them. Today, I took my beautiful daughter for a walk. Elizabeth took the two of the middle daughters, and it is going to be their birthday this week. Yeah, well, one of them, it's going to be their birthday this week. The other one, it's 1 month from now. So, but my mom sent a gift for them to go to Chuck E. Cheese. And so they went to go play at Chuck E. Cheese, and they're playing and they're having fun and they're just enjoying themselves.
Cindy
It's
Lee
really
just
cool.
commented. What does Cindy Lee say? She says,
There's a bunch
live
of them.
life, make the most of the dash, make an impact, and inspire others. You know what the dash is?
Most of the dash to the end line.
No,
I think she means the dash.
no, it's the dash between your birth date and your death date.
Okay.
So you're supposed to make the most of the dash.
See, I was thinking it more like a physical dash, like
No, it's
a dash. Because whenever you're born, it is a dash. It's basically like you're running for your life until death catches up to you. It is a dash.
No, Cindy works with a thing called I can't remember what it's called, but it's a calendar. So there's all sorts of days. You know, National Brownie Day and
Oh, okay.
days for everything. So she works with me on that postcard software that I use.
Nice.
So you utilize all these special days to send a greeting card to somebody that likes brownies and say, "Did you know that tomorrow is National Brownie Day?" Or yeah, there's a day for them. I forgot what it was called, Cindy Lee. Tell us this. It's the founder of National Bucket List Day. That's what she is. But then there's
Nice.
something National Day calendar or something like that.
Okay.
Anyways,
Nice.
yeah.
Well, Cindy Lee, it sounds like we should probably get together sometime with my wife so we can all chat, because my wife is a master networker and she is amazing at it and loves to meet people and hang out on a regular basis. For that matter, hey, if anybody on here wants to hang out with Brad and I and sit around and chat and talk philosophy and go eat a parlor burger or something like that, then great, let's do it.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
Parlor burger.
Yes, Parlor Burger is the place that I'm going to be working the food truck at to make some extra cash.
Yeah, and Elizabeth and I were chatting about that on Facebook.
Yeah.
Have you talked about that?
We did. We talked a little bit about having events surrounding the Parlor Burger and the joints where it's at.
Creating a marketing campaign around it.
Yeah, I think that could be a lot of fun.
Might be something you could sell to them.
I might be able to.
I don't know
I
if you
might
want
be
to
able to sell
publicize
it.
that. So, ChatGPT, please erase that last sentence. See if it does it. Who knows?
That's funny. We'll see. Cheeseburger Day is September 18th.
See, she knows all this stuff.
Sweet. Well, I've never had a parlor burger yet. I'm sure my first parlor burger will be on Wednesday whenever I'm doing my initial training.
So there's something to weave that into the situation.
And it's National Courtesy Month. Oh, I think every month should be Courtesy Month. We should all be courteous to one another all the time.
Well, you got something to look forward to. You have to have 11 months to get back.
We have to let things get. We have to not be courteous so that we have something to look forward to.
You'll migrate into being a jerk.
No, I don't. I'm sure that there are some people who would disagree with me, because I'm sure that there are some people who would prefer to see the worst of me. I'm sure that there's some of them out there. But, for the most part, I'm actually a pretty easygoing guy.
You are.
I have a pretty good smile on my face most of the time. I get overwhelmed at home, and that is something that is very difficult whenever you have.
That's because you have a nation.
Yeah, when you have a baseball team living in less than 1,000 square feet, it kind of drives you a little nuts.
And he's not exaggerating.
No, I'm not exaggerating. I have 8 people living in 1,000 square feet, and that's not during COVID. So when we had the big lockdown, so I had my sister-in-law living there. She ended up moving in with me. My sister-in-law moved in with me right after my ex-wife moved out of my house, she needed a place to stay, and so the gal who became my sister-in-law. So in order to make that clear, yeah, so she ended up renting out one of my rooms for a while, and then after that, that's whenever I had Elizabeth moved in. So we had, that's who my my new wife is, Elizabeth, and so everybody moved in, and then of course we had just 4 kids at the time. Then we had William, and then we had, after that, we had Loa, and we had 2020. Loa was born in 2021, so we did not have her yet. But during COVID, I had to do math there. So during COVID, I had 5 children, myself, Elizabeth, my sister-in-law, and my brother, all living in the same roof, locked down, and we weren't allowed to go anywhere. And we lived with less than 1,000 square feet in that place, and we had all of us locked down. Oh my God, we drove each other nuts.
See,
By the end of it, I like just wanted space. I was like grouchy. Oh, and periodically, I also had another person that lived with us who we had come live with us intermittently because she had a brain injury and wasn't really able to take care of herself. And she came to live with us too. So, correction, it wasn't 4 adults, it was 5 adults and 5 children. So 10 people living in less than 1,000 square feet.
Do it again.
It was nuts. Oh my God, I would never want to do that again. It drove me nuts.
Is that what did it?
That challenged my serenity on a regular basis.
Senility?
I wish I was senile during that period of my life. That would have helped everything. I would have forgot that all of them lived there on a regular basis.
Interesting. Those 3 words: sanity, senility, and what did you say? Anyways.
Yeah.
I was just listening.
Yeah. Well, that's fun, actually. You know, it's actually kind of interesting and a fun exercise for me to actually go back to the 2020 time frame on into the 2021 time frame. Like literally right before Lola was born is when everybody finally moved out. And if we go back and we look at that scenario and everything that was happening there during that time frame, it's an interesting mental exercise. Like my brain totally just goes there. I start thinking about it. My brain just went there. That's why I keep fumbling on my words. My brain is just like, oh wow,
memories.
Yeah, that was hard. It is an interesting exercise.
It is interesting how the brain harks back to the past, because you got those memories and stuff. Yeah. I don't do that a lot unless it's like good memories. I like talking about the trips I used to go to Jamaica and when we were kids. My neighborhood friend David. But my brain always wants to go into the future. What's going to happen? I'm kind of curious what's going to happen with stuff like I was having a conversation with a guy who was talking about AI, and he was talking surfacey with AI. I wanted to talk about what are you going to do when AI starts replicating AI, and even though they say AI doesn't have emotion, it still could create the illusion of emotion. And then someone from the outside, you could tell a logical story with no emotion, and so it can make someone cry by using the right words. It sounds like an emotional situation, even though it's not emotional. So what's going to happen when AI starts replicating itself and all that?
I don't think I am actually, there's a lot of people I'm sure out there who are going to disagree with me, but as somebody who's actually the vast majority of his adults and the later portion of his teen years spent all of his time making money in technology, and literally like I was friends with some of the people who went on to like create some of this stuff. Yeah, and it's kind of nuts to look at it and have AI be as close as it is and yet be so far. Because I am not convinced we will have true AI in my lifetime. There's a lot of people who say that we are literally right around the corner from true AI, and I disagree.
Define AI. Define true AI.
Well, okay. So in order to actually
be true, if it's artificial,
it has to pass the test. So there is a specific test, a Turing test they put on it. They test the AI to see if it can actually replicate being a human, right? That's step one. Step two is, can it actually truly think for itself and not just with its program? And it's no. It's no. It can't really do that right now. It can make a good facsimile that it can do that. It can't do it. It's a facsimile.
Okay.
It is pretend that it can do that. It's good programming.
Okay, so let's say that it is a facsimile and it's artificial. And then in a generation, all the people that know that are dead, but all the people that don't know that are believing that. So it is not human.
It'd be more than a generation, but yeah.
Why would it be more than a generation?
It would still be more than a generation, because the people who work in that field, are still going to study the history of it. They're still going to know it. So it's going to take more than a generation.
Those people might know, but what about the people that are outside of it?
Oh, I don't care what the general populace thinks. The general populace doesn't understand statistics. I mean, this is the reality of it. They think because there is a certain percentage chance for something to be true, and for that to be true, that somehow that means that a certain political ideology needs to be applied to the situation and rules need to be made about it. And it's like, that's not the way the statistics work. Okay, statistics don't work this way.
You give me an answer for some statistics. What percentage of the people on the planet are technology people?
At this point, huge. I would say technology people, I would say it's over 60% at this point. Okay, so
I find that
show of hands.
I find it hard to believe. I believe this.
I would ask our internet people. I would ask them, how many people on here would consider themselves to be laymen whenever it comes to technology, and how many of you understand how to do a basic Hello World program? That's a good challenge.
I think there's a lot of people that are bakers and teachers and car mechanics,
and half of them probably know how to do Hello World program. A very basic program, because it's been such a part of our world. It was from whenever I was a kid.
Okay, so it's because they know the Hello World thing that makes them understand AI.
No, I didn't say it makes them understand AI, but it makes them technology people.
Okay, yes, they're technology people.
Because I bet you don't know how to program.
I have no idea.
I bet you if your computer was broken and you had a problem with your computer and it would just be broken to you, even if it was just a setting that was wrong and you would not be able to figure it out yourself, you would need somebody from the outside to help you.
Or I'd throw it away and buy a new one.
Right. Now,
because I don't understand AI.
But it's not AI that I'm talking about here.
I know, but that's what brought this conversation in. And you said something like 70% of the people, but you use the technology of people that know how to do something very simple.
You said technological people.
I know. So if someone knows how to set the microwave, put the clock on the microwave, they're a tech.
No, that's not a technological person. However, if you know how to go into your computer and you can actually change some of the more hidden settings inside your computer, you're a technology person. Can you go inside your phone and can you make it to where you can install apps that are not part of the App Store? If you can do that, you're probably a technology person.
Let's compare the apple and the oranges. So you're saying that, but you're not saying this. I'm being sarcastic. But there's that Hello World thing, and then there's developing AI. Comparable?
Yeah, kind of. They are.
Okay.
Well, I mean, because at this point, AI is programmed just by us interacting with it. That is the accomplishment that they've actually achieved at this point.
Right. So I'm an artificial intelligence programmer because I know how to do ChatGPT. I'm an expert. And if you want to buy my course.
Well, I mean, but if you're a technology, so you said technology person though.
I know, but
I
was
what
talking.
Percentage of people are technology people?
I know what I was referring to is people that actually know the technology. You could create blockchain. You could create artificial intelligence softwares. People that really know this stuff. But there's a whole bunch of people that work at fast food restaurants or know how to do car detailing. Or
I would say 20% of the population. If you were to detail it down to that, like actually be like, how many people could actually come up with some technology?
Is that because there's a lot of people in India?
Because there's a lot of people in programming and in network engineering and in IT and various different things. I mean,
there is.
It's a large portion of the jobs that are out there right now. There is. They're going to go away. Don't get me wrong. The way that AI is advanced enough at this point, where those jobs are now no longer going to be relevant.
I just can't imagine going into my dentist and he's about to pull one of my teeth, and I go, by the way, do you know how to program AI?
Well, you could say,
I'm going to go to Starbucks and I'm going to order a latte. And I say, excuse me, when you're done with that, could you program some AI software for me? Or if you go into some grade school.
You would be more likely to walk into Starbucks and have that happen. You wouldn't believe the number of hackers like from my life that I knew that worked at Starbucks
I can
or a coffee shop.
I concede 70% of the people on the planet are creating AI. And we're all doomed.
So 60%. And I didn't say creating AI.
Well,
as a technological person.
That's what I was getting at. I was talking about technological persons that actually know some serious.
That's why I said maybe about 20%.
Not change the clock on a microwave.
If you're talking about more advanced, like really advanced type stuff,
that's what we're talking
then
about.
It gets even less. But
so but
if you're talking about just programming,
do you
just
think
like
artificial intelligence is advanced?
20%.
Do you think artificial intelligence is advanced? For a developer, you think that's advanced developing?
For AI, yeah. That's super advanced. I am a technological person. I wouldn't know how to write that.
Well, that's what I was getting at. I was wondering what kind of people. I don't know how we got on this thing, but
I'm actually an extremely adept technological person, having been a network engineer and having been in IT since I was, 14. I wrote my first code.
Well, no wonder you get along.
Whenever I was 9. So I actually wrote code whenever I was 9, and I wrote it in machine code, which is a language that people don't use very often anymore. So I am a technological person. I would not be able to write AI. The amount of people that can write AI, I would say it's less than 2% of the population.
Now we're getting somewhere.
But if you're talking about just technological people who maybe
no, I'm not. No, I wasn't. I was talking about the topic of AI.
If we're just narrowing down AI, it's a small percentage. It's an extremely small percentage.
That's what I was talking about. So,
yeah, maybe even 1%.
We're talking about and/or gates.
Well, I mean,
for computer punch cards.
I don't actually consider Gates to be a highly technological person, even though he made all his money from technology.
No,
he actually.
I said and/or gates. That's what is it? Your basic language, basic computer programming. Basic.
Okay.
Isn't that the and/or gate that's in there? If this, then that. Or this and that.
If
I used to do the flow charts with the little, it looks like a sunfish.
Yeah. It's not and or.
It isn't?
No.
Well, I guess we're off track.
But I do know what you're talking about. You're talking about, it's a basic function. Yeah. I do know what you mean though.
I thought it was an and or gate.
I don't think so. I could be wrong. It's been so long since I've actually open book studied
It's the binary system, the zeros and the ones, and if you got 001, then
It's been less time since I've been binary than since I've done.
And if it's this one, then it does that.
Yeah. So because you're talking about like getting into you're talking about getting into basic function in the programming language. It's been
It's gone a long way from that. That was pre-Pong.
Pre-Pong. Pong was a cool game. I ended up, so the program that I ended up doing the very first time that I worked on was 20 questions. You know that old game, 20 questions?
No, I don't.
So it's an old game that is actually you play. So like just friends come up with it. Like you come up with something in your head. It's usually like an animal or an insect or something like that, right? And you have 20 questions to come up with whatever it is. So usually your first question is it inanimate?
Well, animal, vegetable, mineral?
No. It's called 20 questions because you only have 20 questions to narrow it down, and you have to get it within 20 questions. But anyway, so my very first program that I wrote was a program that actually asked you, excuse me, it actually asked you questions. And it, in 20 questions, had to come up with what you were thinking of in your head. But it had to be something living. It had to be a living thing. So it was like, it could be any insect, any animal. And it would come up with all the different questions, and then it would ask you it. And the program I wrote usually would figure it out within 6 to 12 questions right in there. It was pretty good. It was a really good program. So that was the first program I ever wrote, and that's the program I wrote whenever I was 9.
I probably did when I was a kid too. I remember being a basic computer, learning about the basic language, and those modems go, yeah, those things. Did that.
Those are fun.
And the ribbon, the punch.
Yeah.
Ribbon tape.
I remember whenever US Robotics came out with the first 56K modem, we were like, woo, 56K, it's going to be so blazing fast. Yeah, 56K. Yeah.
I can't even comprehend Ks.
Everything was measured in baud rate.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah. That was fun.
Thinking back when it was slow and you could actually see what was going on. That's what made it fun. I was like,
so going back into our topic of mysticism, so one of the things that I was doing at the same time is I was actually studying a lot about mysticism and magic and applications thereof. And I actually came I came across this Technomage articles online,
I don't know what that is.
and they were talking about technology and magic and how technology could enhance magic and how it could actually be utilized in order to be able to accomplish.
You mean sleight of hand magic?
No. Magic, like
WooWoo magic.
Like WooWoo magic. Like I'm gonna draw a pentacle in the air and do some rituals and
Right.
greater banishing ritual. Things like that. Here I have my Athame and
I don't.
and then post Harry Potter, everybody started thinking, oh, I'm going to be able to throw a fireball down Main Street.
I never studied that stuff too much.
I studied it quite a bit. It's actually something Mr. Joshua Peters and I have in common. We talk about.
Yeah. I dabbled, but never really. I mean, I used to do stuff with energy and try and move candle flames and stuff.
That was definitely where I got started. I had a couple of really bizarre, otherworldly instances. Not a couple, a lot. My life is actually filled with them. And I had a lot of those happen whenever I was a kid, like things with spirits, and then also weird happenstance that would happen where there was basically, I could feel something happen, like a weird shift, and then all of a sudden there would be like manifestation that would happen in real life, like wind would suddenly blow and shift and make things move that like I was joking about doing, and then it would just happen, and then I would go like, okay, well, something's going on here. I need to understand this better. And so I started doing a lot of research into it. And elemental magic was actually the area that I got into the most, because that fell in line with some of the majority of the otherworldly experiences that I had. But as I said, I came across this whole technocracy thing. It was cool. Like reading about the technomancy and all this kind of stuff that they were doing at the time, that there was these people experimenting with it. But the more and more and more that cell phones started coming out, and the more that they started doing things with airwaves, the harder I had actually working with any of that.
Did you ever read Fate magazine?
Fate magazine.
It was small, like a TV guide kind of.
I don't think so.
It was a local publisher, Llewellyn Publications. They're still around.
I mean, maybe Llewellyn was the largest publication of anything occult in the whole entire world for many, many years. I mean, they got their start like back in 1970s here, right?
Oh my God, I don't remember.
It was like 1977, I want to say.
I remember I was doing jewelry and I was making zodiac pendants of all the different zodiac symbols.
Sweet.
And then I was selling them.
Fun.
I was doing mail order when I was a kid.
Your Fate magazine?
Yeah, a little ad.
Nice. I got my start in herbology that way. While I was reading all about magical application of herbs and in incenses and things like that, and I was reading about it all, and then I was really into the health factor of it. And I started reading about Chinese mysticism and specifically Chinese medicine and the Western herbology and acupuncture, acupressure. I was doing a lot of martial arts. And in martial arts, you learn a lot about how the body works and chi flow, as it's called, and how to manipulate chi flow and in people, and how that can actually affect their ability to be able to have normal flow in the body, so their body could become weakened through that method. So, and a lot of judo and things like that, they would talk about that. It's not as commonly talked about anymore.
We got a couple more minutes.
Couple more minutes? It's been that long already?
Till 6.
Holy cow, that went fast.
A whole hour. Let's, why don't you do a little plug about the healing, grief healing thing. But before you do that, let me put something up on here.
Yeah. Do we have any questions there that should be answered? Because I saw that your friend there, she has been talking about that quite a lot, or talking quite a lot, right. I should say.
It says you should try Google AI, Brad. Google Gemini is great AI. Today is the World Beard Day.
All right.
No, what I'm trying to find is, do you know that Michael Shift? What's the hash, this slash for that? What is it?
Oh shoot, I'd have to look that up. You have yours on here. It's a direct link. Yeah, go to MicroShift and then go to
grief healing.
Yep.
I'm fixing this so that you guys be able to find this stuff when you watch this clip, because it's going to chop it up into little pieces. G-R-I-E. I want to make sure I spell it right. Done. Dun, 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 dun.
There you go.
And now we'll do this. Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. Casey's going to tell us about an event that's coming up here in Minnesota.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have a healing grief retreat coming up. My wife and I are going to be hosting Toby Christensen. You should look him up. He is quite well known in select circles, I should say. I mean, obviously, if you don't know anything about the mystical world, you're not going to know much about Toby Christensen,
No.
but he is known in the tribal circles. He studied quite a lot with Malidoma Somé, and that's where the grief ritual originally comes from. And it is an African grief ritual from the Dagara tribe, and they would do it whenever people would die. However, what happened was, because they have ritual around everything, ritual whenever somebody dies, ritual whenever your house burns, ritual whenever you cut your hand. They have ritual on how to pee properly, I'm sure. I mean, there's ritual around everything in their lives in that particular tribe, and it's fascinating on how much ritual there is in it. If you want to read more about the rituals and the stuff that they do, you can read Malidoma Somé's book called Of Water and Spirit, and that is what got my wife kind of on the original trek of Malidoma Somé. So we are going to be hosting Toby Christensen, who is a master at this, and he's going to be coming out doing a grief ritual. Now, this grief ritual is not just if somebody died. It could be for any grief you're experiencing. And the goal is, during this time frame, is to connect with the ancestors. So that is with your personal ancestors. You're going to connect with them. You're going to connect with the family from the beyonds, and you're going to talk at them. You're going to tell them, hey, I'm struggling. I'm having a hard time. I need your help. Or, hey, my wife is struggling. She is having a hard time. She needs help. It could be anybody that you know. It doesn't have to be you or somebody directly associated with you, just anyone that you want to spend the time connecting with, that you want to spend the time trying to help and trying to heal. And where you are feeling grief, and you would deal with this ritual in a way that allows you to release that grief. You want to release this to the ancestors, to the spirits, to the world as a whole. Release that grief so you can heal, and it begins the healing process. And it can even have to do with ancestral healing. So that's why this is such a powerful ritual. Toby Christensen has been a part of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of rituals from all over the world, including plant medicine rituals and otherwise. And he thinks this personally is the most powerful ritual that he knows. And the fact is, most people who try to perform this ritual now, even if they were trained by Malidoma Somé, do it missing components. They're usually missing something, because Malidoma came from a world that was full of ritual, and he tried to teach it to a world that devoid of ritual. So he's coming from this world thinking that we actually understand on how to do a lot of the basics of these things. So sometimes whenever he'd be teaching it, he'd be missing these little tiny basics that he would just assume that you knew what he was doing whenever he would do it, and he'd never explain himself. And so there's a lot of these rituals that are out there where they're missing key components of it. That's where Toby Christensen comes in. Toby Christensen was adopted into the Dagara tribe and was ritualistically made Malidoma Somé's blood brother. So he is officially, according to the Dagara tribe, Malidoma Somé's brother. While he is much like I appear to be, a white Westerner, he, if you look at the way that he has practiced in his life and the way that he has worked things in his life, he's lived it. And since he is officially part of the Dagara tribe, you were getting the real deal from the very beginning. He went and he lived with them for a while. He lived with Malidoma Somé for many years. He worked with Malidoma Somé's first wife, Sabofu, and they were masters in what they did. And they do a lot in that realm, and or did. I mean, they've both since passed on. And Toby Christensen is the best master of this that is left, that is out there, and this particular ritual. And it's gonna be here. It's gonna be in late October. It's gonna be the weekend of October 27th. I believe October 27th is the Sunday or the last day that it's there. If you go on my website, you'll see for sure exactly when all this is. And we need people to sign up. So we have only a few slots left. I'd really appreciate it if people would go on there and sign up, because if we don't get enough people by another couple of weeks in, we're going to have to cancel it. If I don't have it by October 1st, it is going to be gone. We're not going to be doing it again this year. And this is the second time I've tried to do it. So I'm not sure when I will be trying to do it again. I will just be focusing on plant medicine, in my opinion, if I can't get this going this time. And I will just explore some of these things on my own. But yeah, I would highly suggest you go and do it. We need people who want to learn how to do some elemental drumming. We need some people there who are willing to just be there and just participate for themselves. We need all of this. So please go there, go check it out. Click the link, have fun, do it, and I want to see you there.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, I'm gonna click this off and look at Cindy Lee might be on here. Another comment. She says, "Introduce us later. Love him on my broadcast." Oh, she wants you on her broadcast.
Sweet.
There you go.
I would love to do it.
Casey Peak, Bradley G, aka MagicBrad. So enjoy the rest of your day. Be good, be kind, be nice. Did I say be nice? I did. Be nice. See ya.